Alrighty, welcome. Today we're gonna be talking about the Lorwyn Eclipsed Pre-release. So I just got back from playing at the pre-release at my local game store, LGS, and wanted to just get my thoughts down on how it went, and just how it felt playing Lorwyn Eclipsed. And I'll kind of show the deck I played with as well as the cards that I pulled. And then I ended up going 2 wins, a draw, and a loss. So I was able to win 2 decks to play boosters. So we'll kind of open those at the end to see what we got. I'll go through my deck and discuss some of the interactions that we play with. I just got back, so this deck still has all my lands in it. Obviously, the interactions in this deck and things like that is not perfect. It is, a sealed format, so you play with what you get. And to be honest, I felt like I probably didn't pull the best cards. I don't think I pulled one mythic, so got some rares. And hey, I thought overall, just from a event standpoint, it was fun. This format, these cards, the interactions, even though, like I said, I didn't feel like I pulled very good cards, the interactions, there was actually some pretty good interactions in there that made it pretty fun. So overall, it seems like everywhere the pre-release is pretty packed. So if you get a chance to be able to join one, definitely try to give that a shot. Yeah, I think it's a pretty fun format. All right, so let me adjust the lighting a little bit. It's kind of harsh. So I'll kind of start here with the deck that I ended up going with. So I went with green and white. So when you're green and white, it's mainly that's kind of a Kifkin deck. I don't typically play green and white, but it was just fun. Kind of, there was the cards that I was dealt. So I'll kind of walk through the deck right now. So this was definitely one of the cards I spotted early. Champions of the Perfect, 4 mana for a 6/6 when you behold an elf. I play with a good amount of shapeshifters in my deck, so always, was able to cast this when I needed to. Whether I had a shapeshifter in my hand or whether it's already on the board. But it was pretty useful. In my first game, this card essentially, won me the game when it got casted early. But overall, great fun, great interaction. All right, it's just a regular forest. So one of the first changelings I had, Feisty Spikeling. This one, pretty straightforward. It's a 2-drop, 2/1 for strike during my turn. Other than that, mainly in there for color. So red, white, as well as, it being a changeling. So it's all creature types. So I have Dundulin Weaver. So I actually pulled this card. I pulled 3 of them. 2 of these made it into my deck. So this card, essentially, when it enters, if you control 3 or more creatures, return target permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. So in one of my first games, my opponent played a removal against my Champions of the Perfect. And my Dundulin was able to, Dundulin Weaver was able to bring them back. So at that point, they kind of, they were not very happy about that. And, like I said, it led to me winning. So here's the 2 that I had in my deck. So I pulled 2 Evolving Wilds, and both of these are in my deck. So this one is a foil one. Definitely very useful. Guilt Leaf's Embrace. So this one, it is a 3-drop for enchantment aura, flash, enchant creature. When it's enchanted against trample, indestructible until end of turn. And then enchant creature gets +2/+0. So I honestly did not play a lot of I mean, I think I pulled it like once, only at one of these cards, I think. Didn't really use as much, but I mean, it's got flash, so it's not too bad. But you know, it just gives power, doesn't really give toughness. If you're attacking or something like that, you could use this as, you know, kind of a instant buff. And then trample indestructible. It could potentially, you know, chunk someone down. So Furdock Core. So I use this in my deck. It's essentially a mana rock, cost 3. It's a changeling once again, and then it is something where you can tap 4, it becomes a 4/4 artifact creature at the end of turn. So, and then it taps for mana of any color. So great if you want to splash something extra in your deck. But thought it was pretty useful. Kithkeeper. So this one, I casted it. I only ultimately casted it once. It's got the vivid mechanic. When this creature enters, create X 1/1 green and white Kithkin tokens, where X is the colors among the permanents you control. So you can kind of see here, I have red, white, green. I also have, I believe, a green black in here. So I think I have essentially 4 colors. But you know, it is a 7-drop. It takes a while for this to come out. By the time I used it, the one time I did get to use it, it actually got countered. So not super useful. But you know, if it ever made it in there, you know, it's a 7, and you get it, create some. I don't know. It probably, you know, I probably could have not had it in my deck, to be honest. Didn't see a lot of value. Timid Shieldbearer. So this is essentially just a 2-drop with, you know, when you tap 5, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. It was just essentially, it's in there because it's a 2-drop. I never ever really used that 5 mana effect. All right, so this was my this was the card that was in the promo card. So the Winnowing. I didn't really play with this for most of the night. For my last game, I ended up putting it in. It did not end up drawing it, but I did have this used against me. And this was the removal that, you know, took out Champions of the Perfect, but at the same time, I was able to get it back. So overall, I mean, it's almost a board wipe when it's in the sealed format. I mean, whatever you can get to get some removal would be helpful. Like I said, I just didn't end up using it, but there are some pretty good interactions, you know, like Dandelion Weaver, that'll get things back. Plus, you have, you know, if you are running a lot of Kifkins and things like that, yeah, it can definitely change what's going on. All right, so Flock Imposter. So it's a 3-drop 2/2 changeling flash flying, and then when it enters, return up to 1 other creature you control to its owner's hand. So this is almost like you bounce your own creature back. I've had it. I used it a few times to trigger a, enter effect. I'll kind of show the interaction a bit later. It's the card I interact with isn't on the board yet, or isn't. I haven't gotten to it yet, but this was actually kind of somewhat useful. So Liminal Hold, super important card. Obviously with white removal, white and green removal is important. This served me very well. When it enters, exile up to 1 target non-land permanent, and until this enchantment leaves the battlefield, and then you gain 2 life. So overall, I mean, in sealed, you're not going to have a whole lot of people with enchantment removal, every time I play this on an opponent's creature, they weren't able to get it back. So, definitely very useful. Definitely kept me alive. Moonlit Lamenter. So this one I play with a few times. Once again, this one it's a 3-drop 2/5 with a -1 counter when it enters, and you tap to remove a counter and draw a card. Activate only as a sorcery. So essentially, you can pay 5, for a 2/5 and to draw a card. You can essentially remove that counter the turn it comes into play, and overall, I use it quite a few times just to draw some more cards. I thought it was somewhat useful. It's a 2/5. You can use it as a blocker, and something where you can also use Flock Imposter after the -1/-1 counters are gone. Return to your hand, cast it again to draw some more cards. All right, Tristan's Command. So I splashed this for my last round or my last game. I didn't end up drawing it. I didn't really use it, but I did draw, I think, 2 commands. This one, I didn't really have black, but I had the Fire Dot Core, so I could use that to cast this. Essentially, just you could choose 2 of those interactions. It's essentially serves as either a removal or something to potentially end the game if you can copy a strong elf, or if a shapeshifter or something, or if if you can also get +3/+3 at the end of turn. It also says untap them. Ultimately it's a sorcery, so the last one you can use it as a +3/+3 to attack, but I don't know how the last line really interacts well. So I guess you could use it to pump something up, or I don't know. I feel like the last one isn't super useful. Mainly, I put it in for the removal. All right, Pitless Fist. Used this quite a few times. This is essentially like a fight mechanic. You enchant, you get +2/+2, and then you fight a creature, and you serve it as a creature removal. Assert Perfection. So similar to Pitless Fists, except instead of fighting, you just deal the damage straight to an opponent, to a creature. So once again, removal spell in green. Surprisingly, got a few pretty decent removals in green and got no removals in red. So Wildvine Pummeler. So this is 7-drop, Vivid, costs less, Reach Trample. I think the most I was able to get this down when I casted it was 4. So I was able to get 3 colors in and cast this for 4 mana. Overall, it's one of those things where, by the time you cast this, you're hoping you can end the game with it. It's a 6/5 with Reach and Trample. Chitinous Graspling. So once again, it's really for the Changeling, the Vivid. It's really to help trigger more Vivid stuff. It does have Reach, so help me kind of defend against flyers. I think the one thing overall, I had this as a flyer, not a lot of other flyers that I didn't really draw too many of those. All right, Prideful Feastling, 2/3 lifelink, Changeling. No, the lifelink was useful, but really you used it for the Changeling feature. It's something where you can use it for Champions of the Perfect. Any of the Changelings can trigger that. So this is pretty cool. So I pulled a Sapling Nursery, and it's a landfall trigger, affinity for forests. I think I never was able to get it super early. Most of the times, just with how expensive it is, right? The earliest I would say you can probably cast it is, turn 3, probably turn 4, right? Turn 4, it would become a 4 cost. This is 8. So the earliest technically you could cast this is turn 4, unless you get a Mana Dork in there. So if that happens, you could maybe cast it turn 3. And then obviously landfall. When I actually was able to cast it, I was able to landfall maybe 2 times or 3 times, and then the game was already kind of over. So kind of late for a landfall, but the 3/4 green Tree Folk with Reach is great. obviously never used the exile feature, really. Didn't really need it. Another Furdock core, so I got 2 of those in there. So Appeal to Erdu, it's a nice instant, and 1 or 2 target creatures gets +2/+1 until end of turn. It gets Convoke. It helped me close out my last game, essentially pumping up my creatures to be able to be my opponent. So it's a useful spell. All right, Reese the Evermore. So this is a really cool card. Lots of great interaction. It's a 2/2 with flash, and then when it enters, target creature you control gains persist until end of turn. And what persist is if a creature dies with no -1/-1 counters on it, then it comes back under my control with a -1/-1 counter. Your own creature. But what was more useful was the last line: 1 white and tap it to remove any number of counters from target creature you control. Activate only as a sorcery. So it was really useful. You'll kind of see the interaction later to essentially help remove -1/-1 counters from the creatures you might have. So there's quite a few creatures that essentially ramp that start out with a bunch of -1/-1s, and every time you trigger something, it will you can remove 1 or something like that. This will just essentially allow you to remove all those, and then usually you have just a large creature very early. All right, Gold Metal Nomad. So this is actually pretty useful. 1 drop, 1/2, and then essentially, if it dies, you exile it after tapping 1, and you get a 1/1 green and white Kithkin. It's nice because the token is green and white, so you essentially get 2 colors as opposed to just this is just the white. I did play with 2 of these. I was able to pull 2. Spiral into Solitude. This is essentially a removal, right? Enchant creature, can't attack or block. The one thing that I noticed is it can attack or block, but if they have a lot of interactions, or if they have triggers or anything like that, those I think will trigger. So you're essentially having to, if you really wanted to fully remove everything, you need to trigger the second one with tap 2, blight 1, and then sacrifice the aura, and then exile enchanted creature. So used it quite a few times. Here's my second Evolving Wilds. This one is the non-foil. Crossroads Watcher. I used this in my last game. 3/3 trample for 3. Whenever a creature controls, it gets +1/+0 on the end of turn. It was useful. Managed to deal some damage with it, but overall, pretty straightforward. But 3/3 for a trample, I'll take it. Slumbering Walker. So 5 drop for a giant warrior. This creature enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. At the beginning of your end step, you may remove a counter from this creature. When you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So, I mean, essentially 2 -1/-1 5 for a 4/7. So it comes in as a 2/5. So you can use it as a blocker. And then, essentially at the end of your first end step, it becomes a 3/6. And then you can also return a creature from the graveyard. And then once again, if you do it again, you have another one. Overall, this is one of the ones where if you can put, -1/-1 counters on it, you can use it to revive things. I was thinking of using this with building a goblin deck with this. I'll kind of show the other cards that I got, but overall, it ended up just being here. It was, kind of a bomb. Great Forest Druid, 2 drop for a 0/4 mana dork. But, you get 1 mana of any color, which quite useful. And, 0/4 serves as a pretty early blocker. Then Goblin Nomad. So, and then lastly, Bristlebane Battler. So 2-drop comes with Trample Ward 2, and then also it comes with 5/-1/-1 counters on it. And then whenever another creature you control enters, while this creature has a -1/-1 counter on it, remove a counter. So, once again, 2-drop for a 1/1 at the time. So you could essentially get this back to a 6/6, I would say, in turn, as early as probably turn 4. Well, you can as early as turn 3, but you can attack with it turn 4. So essentially, you're using, where's that one elf that I had? Where'd you go? Reese the Evermore. So the interaction here is you could essentially, cast this turn 2, cast this turn 3, and then essentially turn 3, you can, if you have, a white, a green, and then another white, white and green, and then another really of any color, right? This comes out first, this comes out second, remove all of the counters, and then turn 3, you can attack. Other option is if this comes out first and you play this, it'll just remove one, and then the next turn, you can remove the rest of the counters. But ultimately, with this interaction, I think probably turn 4 is the earliest you can do. Because ultimately, even though that this is flash, you have to essentially, you have to essentially wait a turn to tap it so it doesn't have summoning sickness. So that was my deck, and overall, like I said, I won 2, drew 1, and then lost 1. I thought I could have won the one that I drew, just ran out of time. There was no clear winner at the time, but I had my sapling nursery out. It was ramping, saplings, and I don't know that my opponent could do a whole lot. So. But unfortunately, ran out of time, so ended up being a draw. We kind of traded one win. So that's the deck. I thought overall it was really fun to play with. Great interaction and lots of Kifkins. Overall, just having these types of interactions, I thought on a sealed format was fun. So we'll kind of walk through some of the other cards on the deck. So I know this one, and then we'll open the 2 packs here. So we'll try to go through these kind of quickly. I'm not going to read all of the text. Maybe I'll read some of the rares. But Box Slither's Embrace, so the removal, another Auntie Sentence, another removal, Dunham Weaver. We got a Wild Unraveling, removal, Temporal Cleansing, another type of, it's a bounce counter, and then this is another bounce. Here's some of the lands that I got. So I got this. This almost made me want to play Elemental. So got Twin Flames Travelers, and then Ashling's Command. Essentially, if I were to play this, I would have, triggered copies of Twin Flame Travelers, essentially creating a token. And then if a trigger ability of another elemental you control triggers, it triggers at additional time. So this triggers twice. So you essentially come and if this is already on the board and you copy it, this will trigger twice. You would copy 2 of these. And then you can also essentially, draw 4 cards, deal 4 damage to each creature target player controls, or create 4 treasure tokens. So essentially, it can do a lot. And then after you get, 3 of these on the field, this is not a legendary creature. You essentially can trigger if you have another elemental type of effect, you can essentially trigger it 3 times, which is kind of insane. Wanted to play just to even just trigger that ability, but I did not get the cards that I wanted in red. Eclipse Realm, it's a land. Vinebred Brawler, some elves. These are I didn't end up playing with these in my green deck. Dawn's Light Archer, and then Vinebreaker Brawler, Lumen Mollusk, so Death Touch Vivid, gain life. Really not useful for my green white. And then got a bunch of goblins though. So here's one Torchmaster, 2 for a 2/2. You can blight, and when you do, creature gains haste. So pretty useful. I almost played a goblin deck, but I did not. Once again, red was limited from a removal standpoint, so I ended up not going with red. Chaos Sphere. When it enters, you may pay 2. If you don't, blight 2. So, 3 for a 5/4, and then you can, blight some creatures. I mean, that's a pretty good, pretty strong drop. Shadow Urchin. So this is a foil rare. Shadow Urchin, 3 for a 3/4, and when this creature attacks, blight 1. Whenever a creature you control with 1 or more counters on it dies, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Until your next turn, you may play those cards. So essentially, it's almost kind of a way to draw and play more cards. But like I said, didn't end up playing this one. Bioval Bogart, Heirloom Auntie. Wanted to play the Goblin because of this card. Grubstroid Matriarch, 3 for a 2/1. Menace, and then when it enters or transforms, you'll take 1 Goblin card from your graveyard to your hand. It sucks that it's to your hand, so you have to recast it. If it was great, it would have been, imply, which would have been insane. And then at the beginning of your main phase, you pay red to transform it. So when it is red, it's once again Menace 2/1. When it attacks, you may blight. If you do, create a tapped and attacking token that is a copy of the blighted creature, except it has at the beginning of end step sacrifice this token. And then at the beginning of your first main phase, you may tap it. So essentially, you can blight a small goblin or something like that, create the token, attack, and then bring it back when it flips around. So Darkness descends 2 -1/-1 counters on each creature. So this is kind of a semi-board wipe for small creatures, right, on each creature. And I pulled 3 of them. So you probably would have wiped out nearly anything, but it costs 4. So yeah, I mean, it's a lot. Rooftop Percher, 5 for a Shapeshifter, flying, 3/3, and when it enters, exile up to 2 target cards from graveyards. You gain 3 life. So this is useful for some, countering some reanimating type of effects. But overall, I mean, I didn't play with it. It's 5 for a 3/3 flying. I didn't feel like it was super useful. Then 2 white cards, a Merfolk Cleric, 2/2, you gain 2 life, and then flying 3/3, and surveil 1. So didn't really find value in those. Brambleback Brute, 3 for a 4/5, enters with 2 -1/-1 counters on it. Remove a counter from this creature. Target creature can't block this turn. So, some -1/-1 type of interactions. Chitinous Graspling, didn't end up playing with both of them. Got a Scarbite Scout. The Dawn Hand Eulogist. This art on this card is amazing. I'm surprised it's just a common, but the art looks pretty awesome. And then here's all of the elementals I had drew. And I saw how many elementals I had, and I kind of wanted to play elemental, but like I said, I didn't get any good red removals. So Flame Chain Mauler, 2 for a 2/2. Elemental Warrior, 6 for 6/5 with basic land cycling. And then when it enters, exile the top card of your library. At the end of your next turn, you play that card. Flamekin Guild Weaver enters, create a treasure token. It's trample for 3/4. Soulbright Seeker. So this one, additional cost to cast a spell. Behold, an elemental, or paid 2. And then you tap one target creature you control gains trample and end of turn. And then if it's the third time this ability has resolved, add 4 red. So pretty awesome. And it's a 1-drop for a 2/1. So you can kind of see why I wanted to play red-blue or red, but just didn't end up working. So 3 for a Enraged Flamecaster for a 3/2 with reach. And then whenever you cast a spell with mana 4 or greater, this creature deals 2 damage to each opponent. So, once again, if you're able to trigger that other ability, you could essentially trigger this 3 times. So every time you cast a spell 4 or greater, you deal 6 damage to each opponent, which is, pretty insane. Flame Chain Mauler. So same, we already saw that. And then another Kurlath Zealot. This card actually, this card actually beat me. Someone actually had played 2 of these and was able to cast both using a kind of a reanimating card. It was kind of rough. All right, so the last is the blue cards. So we got a Spell Snare, Swat Away, Wandering Distractor, Aquitect's Defenses, Glamorite, Gravel Gale Scoundrel, and then another Glittermite. So you can kind of see I didn't really pull anything too amazing. It was fun to play, but it was kind of disappointing. I didn't, there was no mythics. So we'll see. We'll see if the 2 packs that I won got any, but we shall see. So with already kind of 30 minutes in, so just to wrap up, some great interactions with this deck. I thought it was lots of fun. If you have the chance to go and play with this pre-release, definitely go. All right, so let's go ahead and open the 2 packs. So let's see what we get. All right. Got our River Guard's Reflexes, Surly Fearer. These cards would have been nice to have in my pre-release. Cinder Strike. And this would have been useful. Barbed Bloodletter. Barbed Bloodletter. Blah, blah, blah. Can't talk. Stratosaur. It's elemental. Wary Farmer. 3 for a 3/3. Control Surveil 1. Flaring Cinder. 3/2 for 3. Controls energy. Cast a spell with mana for you may discard a card. You do draw a card. Okay, pretty cool. Spell Snare. And I wish I had this pack. Put 2 -1s. Yep. Torchmaster, Goblin Warrior, Flocking Plaster, Goliath Daydreamer. So this is kind of for this format, it's kind of crazy and kind of broken. I played against this one every time I had to cast removal on this, and the one time I didn't, it sucked. So pretty awesome. I probably would have played red if I pulled these cards. And then a Guild to Leaf's Embrace. And then we got a Mountain. Okay, all right, awesome. All right, last pack. Let's see what we get. All right, Mutavault. All right, Appeal to Erdu, Surly Fearer, Cinder Strike. Oh, it's almost just like the last pack. Wild Unraveling, Keep Out. 2, choose 1. Deals 4 damage to tap creature, destroy target enchantment. Oh, this is pretty nice. In an instant. Chaos Spewer, Simmer Creep. 3/5 Menace for 5. Vivid. When this creature enters, each opponent loses X life. You get X life, X number of colors. It caps out at 5, I guess. Deal 5 damage, you gain 5 life. Rhineskeeper, cast spell mana for greater, draw a card. Primal Bash or Trample Vivid. When it enters up to X, target creature can get XX until end of turn, where X the number of colors among permanents you control. Target creature onto end of turn. I mean, 6 for 6/6 with trample. I guess the Vivid is an extra on top. Ever Strikes Gift. Champ creature has flying. Yeah. Nice. I at least got a mythic. We got a Morning Tide's Light. Exile any number of target creatures at the beginning of the next end step. Return those cards to the battlefield tapped under the owner's control. Until your next turn, prevent all damage that would be dealt to you. Exile Morning Tide's Light. So, any number of target creatures at the beginning of the next. Okay. Exile any number of target at the end of next end step. Return those cards to the battlefield tapped under their owner's control. So this is pretty. I wish I had this. I mean, this would have probably saved me in one of my games, potentially. So pretty dope. And then Reckless Ransacking. Target creature gets +3/+2 on the end of turn. Create treasure token. Okay. And then a swamp. Oh, love the artwork. Alrighty. Well, thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe for more.